Welcome to Conveyancing Matters with Lorraine and Stu. Join us for a chat about all things property.
So, Mr. Forsdyke,
Richardson.
Conveyancing Carnage, how's it going?
Been a tough few days. And I think most watching this probably haven't had the weekend off either, have they? So it's not even as if it's we're all fresh on a Monday morning. I think we're jaded from the weekend still.
I think everybody's jaded from the last 12 months, mate, really. And I actually think so much has been sort of almost put out there about, Friday, biggest day in conveyancing possibly ever, 30th coming up, la, 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 la. I just think everybody is just trying to sort of crawl across the line, really. I have to say I haven't on social media in particular, and I'm maybe not, on the right, connected with the right people, but I haven't had a sense of, carnage that everybody thought it might be. What's been your experience on the front line, mate?
It depends on your definition of carnage, I suppose. We didn't have any completions that were late on Friday. Nobody's defaulted. So I suppose from that point of view, you think, yeah, brilliant. So it
well,
was.
I think given the last few chats we've had, that's surely got to be a big plus. That's got to be a big
piece. We were with the volume we pushed on Friday. We were very happy with the way it went. But we were happy in that there was no scars were left, kind of thing. In terms of the day itself, though, geez, incredible. The volume of calls, some banks. Trying to get hold of them, you might as well forget it. We got sort of phones everywhere with people on hold. Santander, Barclays, absolute nightmare. Really, really, really tough. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because you can see from their point of view, they're processing the same volumes, and hence why, we probably can't get hold of them. They've got the same sort of problem, haven't they, in a different kind of way.
Yeah, they do. But I must confess to not feeling an enormous amount of sympathy for the lenders, I have to say, Stu, because A, it's not as if they didn't know it was coming, and B, they are the big boys in all. There goes the dog. They are the big boys in all of this process, really. They are the people that quite literally hold the purse strings. They are quite literally the organisations that determine how you communicate with them, and frankly, whether you will even have any work for them, to do with them. So as I say, I don't feel an enormous amount of sympathy for the lenders, and I think they could have anticipated it better, and frankly, maybe even got in a few more people on the phones. It can't be that difficult, surely.
I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because we can't sort of sit here and pile everything on the lenders, and we a similar kind of argument that we all knew what was coming. But I think in terms of the money ordering and the processing of funds, Carl, that surely they could have dealt with that a bit differently. They would have known the volumes that were coming. Surely there must be some kind of matrix of calculations in terms of mortgage offers that have been issued.
I was going to say they must have had a pretty good record of the number of mortgage offers they've pushed out.
Exactly, they would have had some kind of idea of the volumes they would be dealing with. But we found it incredibly difficult to get hold of anybody. That's the main kind of thing. We would always like to speak to a bank to get confirmation that the money is going to be sent to us the day before. But all that's gone out the window. Just can hardly get hold of anyone.
Yeah.
And of course, while we can't get hold of people, we're tied up on the phones. You get the same kind of scenario the other way around. People then can't get hold of us. So it's that snowball effect, isn't it?
Yeah. I have to say, and to be fair, somebody else said this on a LinkedIn post. But I do think, a word for everybody working in conveyancing accounts departments who somebody's used the phrase unsung heroes. But I mean, they've done extraordinary things in the last few months, but I would say in the last sort of few days in particular, those people have absolutely earned their corn, I'd say.
I think what some people don't quite understand, maybe in terms of the difficulties we've had as an industry, is that by extending the holiday for such a limited amount of time, you can't just go out there bringing extra staff. You can't go out there just simply get extra office space, that quickly. So the only way of really dealing with it is you've just got more people doing more man hours, And like you say, you know, the poor accounts departments out there, it's a stressful job as it is. It's, you know, they're a bit like the goalkeepers of the kind of conveyancing industry. One mistake their end, it's irrecoverable. It's a goal, isn't it? You know, you've got a big problem on your hands. Whereas at least if the conveyancers on the front line make a mistake, depending on what it is, it might not lead to that goal. It might not be that major problem that would be the case if accounts go wrong. But you know, we banked with Barclays. I mean, their system was down last week as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I saw somebody posting about that.
Thursday now, but yeah, so they're all under stresses and strains at the banks, but the account departments, I suggest in the banks and in law firms, yeah, the pressure is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. The volume of completions, I would love to see a statistical breakdown of completions in general that have gone through across the industry on Friday gone, as a comparable on previous years, because I would imagine it must be through the roof.
Well, I tell you what, you could do though, give you a pretty good indicator, wouldn't it? Is to look at the land reg data in the next probably month, because that'll be when all the OS1s expire, give or take, won't it? So I would have thought the land reg data will be pretty instructive, just Definitely. In terms of the volume of transactions that are submitted to them. I noticed actually, slightly tiny thing really, but they are now at least giving on the view my applications function the idea of when your registration is due to be completed. So it will be interesting to see, won't it, whether actually in the next sort of month or two, whether actually that sort of expands given the extra volume of work that they presumably are going to have.
It must do, surely.
Did you see anything? I must admit I saw a note, and I've got to be honest and didn't read it. The land reg was sort of giving some guidance to estate agents, which I thought was a bit odd. They come up, yeah, there was some comment. As I say, to be fair, I didn't look it up. So, but I thought, and people were sort of putting stuff out there, sort of saying, oh well, you know, the estate agent shouldn't be too pushy around the stamp duty land tax holiday. And what I just felt, well, look, guys, you come to this party a bit late. There's no point when the deadline is the 30th of June, starting to talk to people on the 20th of June about what they should or shouldn't be doing. It just all felt a little bit late to the party, to be quite honest.
That horse is most definitely bolted.
Yeah, just a bit, yeah. Really. So how many, I mean, you said before, Stu, that you'd kind of managed your completions to try and sort of manage out a big rush on the 30th. So do you think you've kind of succeeded in doing that?
Probably not. Being honest, no. We tried to get as many completions in the book as we could, you know, way before the 30th, you know, last week, the Friday before. But of course, just you can't take into account personal, you know, people's personal circumstances and what they need. So it's all very well, you know, dictating this, that, and the other. But although we've had a lot of completions virtually every day on the run up to this period, you know, we had a big bulk on Friday gone. We got a lot today, being Monday. We've still got some tomorrow, and we've still got some on Wednesday as well. So I would imagine that will be, you know, across the industry. I think it's all very well, isn't it, trying to get everything in the book early doors, but I think that's a bit obvious now, isn't it? I think all law firms would have tried to have done that.
Yeah, I think so. You don't seem your normal ebullient self, mate, I've got to say. You seem a bit weighed down with it all. It feels like Conveyancing Carnage to me, buddy.
It's just the volume of completions and the strain it puts on the practice. You know, it's the sort of thing that you can't leave. So once something's exchanged, that's it, isn't it? You can't leave it. And of course, we are still faced with circumstances where there are possibilities that things can still go through. And whilst there is that possibility, you know, we've got to explore it. I've seen lots of posts where people are saying no to things, but I'm not quite sure as a firm we should be doing that, or as an industry. Surely we're here to advise, not to make the decision. So for me, you know, you advise, the client makes a decision, and sometimes they'll be making that decision that they want to do something on Wednesday, for example. You know, it could be a simultaneous, potentially somebody could tell you want to exchange today with completion on Wednesday, who knows? Yeah. But, you know, our job is to advise them. So if there's still circumstances that you need to explore, matters you still need to look into in that respect. So it's a difficult one, isn't it?
I agree, Stu. And again, I find this a lot. And I think, and it's certainly, I would say, got worse in the last 10 years. I mean, conveyance has always been really process driven. and clear. And once the problem is, once the sort of juggernaut starts, it can be quite difficult to get off. And that is where I think the sort of mistake comes for a lot of conveyancers, because clients do perceive that it's us that's the driving force. But I find myself saying a lot, and I have for years, to be fair, when people say, well, what should we do? And even I had, a lovely solicitor in one of my member firms get in touch on Friday and sort of say, oh, can I just run this by you, Lorraine? And to be fair, we came to the same conclusion. But the question really was, well, what would you do? It was a difficult leasehold matter, and she'd come into information that, should she disclose? Well, the answer was clearly yes. But, I said to her, look, all you can do is say to your client, this is the issue. This is what I've got to do. Do you authorize me to do this or don't you? But if you don't, I can't continue. And people just lose that emphasis of we advise, the client instructs. And I completely agree with you about the saying no thing. I think to try and manage expectation is one thing, but you can't dictate it.
I mean, I'll be blunt and say to somebody, look, you may well be crazy looking into this or agreeing this at this time, because the consequences of it going wrong are X, Y, Z, or the chances of it going wrong are very high. It's that kind of terminology, isn't it? But to say no to something, I don't see how you can.
I don't really.
You act in accordance with your client's instructions, as long as they're, not of a criminal nature and don't breach any kind of regulation. You do what your client instructs you to do, don't you? So with that in mind, you advise your client, you may be crazy doing this now, but if they're aware of the consequences, they email you or sign your disclaimer to say that you've said X, Y, Z, then, you've got to go for it sometimes still.
Well, that's the big one, of course, isn't it? And I think a lot of this is going to come out in the wash in the next sort of 6 to 12 months, Stu. Is that key point, isn't it? Did we get evidence that we had this conversation, as well as backed it up in writing with an email or whatever? Have we actually got physical evidence of that advice being given? And I think that's actually totally understandably, and I'm not pointing a finger, but I actually think that's where a lot of conveyancers might fall down. Well, you discussed with your client. I know you discussed it with your client, but if nobody else does, then you're on a bit of a sticky wicket, really, aren't you? I think.
Definitely. File notes, call recordings, they're all so valid, aren't they?
Yeah. I think so. And of course, and we've said it before, but the time of the greatest stress is obviously now, and it's the time when, God, have I got time to do, to spend 10 minutes doing an attendance note? And the answer might be, well, I haven't really got the time, but I'm going to have to do it, sort of thing.
I think as an industry, you no point complaining at the moment. We're on the home run, a few days to go. You just got to put in those extra hours. There's no real other way, is there? You can't forgo any kind of due diligence. So the only way of dealing with it at the moment are those extra hours, whatever way we look at it.
Yeah. Well, we did say, Stu, for this one that we would just kind of chew the fat a little bit about, Conveyancing Carnage, really, and not really have perhaps anything sort of new to share, particularly or whatever, and perhaps no, conveyancing nuggets, which I know we like to share with the people that are kind enough to watch what we do. Because apart from anything else, I'm not really sure that people want conveyancing nuggets right now. I just think they want to get over the line. But have you got any sort of final thoughts for?
I think I'd like I think, I just got one little one, and that is in terms of serving notice. I mean, although, you have a client that enters into a contractual arrangement, there's got to be a bit of a line that we draw that if something's not completed by 2 o'clock, we're not all going to start serving notice and be silly about it as a profession. It really gets on my wick when that happens, especially in this current climate. But other than that, we've got to sort of all understand the constraints that everybody's working under. And if as an industry we don't, then we can't then expect people outside the industry to also understand it, can we? So it's just grin and bearing it for the next few days. We're all under the same pressure. We're all under the same umbrella. And we'll see everybody on the other side, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, mate, I hope the next few days go okay. Well done for getting through Friday unscathed, relatively unscathed. And well, hopefully you'll be a little bit more smiley next time I see you.
That's it. No problem. Take care.
Take care, lovey. Bye.